Welcome to the day that is the day that fuck it. Hello everybody.
Hey, how's everybody out there in podcast land? Of course, as you know, because you're listening to this and you downloaded it on whatever app that you listen to podcasts on, or maybe you're even watching this on our YouTube channel. I don't know where the fuck you're watching it, but thank you for doing it. This is, of course, the Bunny Rabbit's Hole, and I am Jason, and this, of course, is...
I am, of course, Craig.
All right. So as you know about the Bunny Rabbit's Hole, what we do every week is we go down... Oh, actually, no, we don't go down any holes. We start with a theme every week. We research a topic, we talk about the topic, and then whenever we talk about it, when it inspires us to talk about something else, we talk about that until we finally reach the end of that, or Craig gets tired of us ranting and raving and brings us right back to the main central theme.
Right. And as Jason said, we pick a topic and we research both sides of the topic because we don't just want something that fits our narrative. You know, we want something that, you know, we want to know all the facts about something. Then we include our opinions, and this is for entertainment. So if you're easily offended, now's the time to click stop and go watch something else because we have a dark humor, and this is for entertainment purposes. But today, this is all opinion-based, not fact-based, because of the topic, which is...
We're talking about our favorite comedy movies.
Yes.
And I was struggling with this. I was going to say the greatest comedy movies, but you're right. It's an opinion-based thing, so it's our favorite comedy movies.
Right. And, you know, this one was kind of hard for me, Jason. Because I honestly, there are very few funny comedy movies that come out anymore.
Not according to Rotten Tomatoes, and I want to talk about that in a little bit.
All right. But, you know, for me, though, I can't stand that, like, Michael Cera, Jonah Hill, awkward style comedy where everything just makes you fucking cringe. And it's that whole, like, it pretty much started, like, in the 90s with the high school comedies and stuff like that. That was just, everything was just awkward and stuff. And they just continued it, and it needs to fucking stop because it's
like,
not funny.
It's like Ali Sheedy's character from The Breakfast Club all of a sudden became the main focus of all the movies.
Yes, exactly. And I don't find it humorous at all. I end up feeling sorry for the people, and you know, if I'm cringing within the first 10 minutes of the movie, I just turn it off. Because it's just not worth it to me. It's not worth the investment of time.
See, I very seldom will turn a movie off. I usually will pick my laptop up or my phone, and then the movie, instead of being turned off, becomes background noise.
Yeah, I do that a lot. And, you know, I went through, like, a huge list of movies, and I had to rewatch a couple of them to see if they still held up to time. And unfortunately, some of them didn't hold up to time.
You know, there were several movies that I loved as a child, and now there's like, why did I watch that repeatedly?
Right. Well, and you know, you and I have talked about this. I don't know if we've done it in a podcast, but I know we talked about it on the phone about, you know, things that were funny in the 80s would be extremely offensive today.
Oh yeah. Case in point, Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
So the movie Revenge of the Nerds was, I mean, if you don't know about it, you've been in Iraq over the last 40 years. It was about a bunch of geeky kids who go to college. Their home gets burnt down. They move the jocks into their house. The jocks are beating them up and doing all this other stuff, but then they have to, you know, work their way up through the Greek ranks, and they win this little festival at the end. But in that movie, there are multiple felonies that we thought were cute at the time that the nerds did. Like, one, they put cameras in all the girls' bathrooms to watch them shower and change, which that's sexual assault.
Right.
And there was a straight up rape scene in this movie. And then they took the girl's naked image and sold it.
Right.
Multiple times. So there's so many felonies that happen in that movie that we thought were funny at the time.
Right. And the way they spun off the rape scene was because, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, is he was wearing a costume, so she thought it was her boyfriend, and she didn't find out it wasn't her boyfriend until they were done having sex.
Yeah.
That's how they spun it off as funny.
Which is rape.
Right.
It was then. It is now.
Right. Exactly.
Now we just don't laugh at it.
Exactly. So I guess with that, I have a couple honorable mentions. Do you have any?
So my honorable mentions, I kind of wanted to just kind of throw out there like some of the staples that everybody would have on their list, because that's kind of what I did. Was I took, there's several movies that pretty much everybody would have on their list, and I don't know, maybe we should talk about this before we started, or maybe we just go down it and then we'll talk about them later.
Well, whatever.
Okay.
We'll just feel it out.
I dwindled my list to 20.
Okay.
But there's several in here that I'll actually throw out as being honorable mention. Like, to me, an honorable mention for the greatest one would be Christmas Story.
Okay.
I throw that on as an honorable mention because I haven't actually watched it in about 10, 15 years because of TBS playing it over and over again on Christmas. And I just get tired of hearing, you'll shoot your eye out from people and seeing all the merchandise for the movie. So I got burnt out on it, but It's not going to change the fact that my father to this day still says not a finger all the damn time. So I would throw that out there as an honorable mention of being one of the funniest movies that I've probably seen in my life.
Let's see. Now, I have two honorable mentions that I want to throw out there. I was going through the list and I was struggling with, because I wanted to include an Adam Sandler movie because he is a staple in modern comedy, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And I would have gone with Happy Gilmore had my son not watched that thing over and over daily when he was 3 years old, which, yeah, bad parenting. I let him watch Happy Gilmore when he was 3, but he would watch it over and over and over again, like 15 times a day. So, that one I got so burnt out on. So I went with one that probably wouldn't make many people's list, but just go with it, the one with him and Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, okay.
And what made that movie so funny to me wasn't necessarily the main cast, but it was more the supporting cast, being Dave Matthews and the other kid who was playing Dolph Lundgren in the movie.
Okay.
I can't remember his name, but to me, they were the funniest parts of the movie when you got, Dave Matthews squeezing a tennis ball or something with his butt cheeks and picking it up off the ground, and he's hitting on all the male sailors and stuff while he's supposedly married to Jennifer Aniston's arch nemesis.
Oh,
and
nice.
then the one kid is doing CPR to a sheep. It was a funny movie.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. And what I find a lot of times with his movies is some of the supporting cast are funnier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because basically the entire cast of Grandma's Boy, which I think is a great movie, it's not on my list, but I think it's a hilarious movie. They all came from that Happy Madison family. But they're in a lot of Adam Sandler movies, and they're hilarious.
Oh, yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And my other honorable mention is because I loved this movie when I was younger. And it was from the 80s. It's from 1985. But I rewatched it yesterday, and I actually spent $3 to rent it on Amazon Prime so I could watch it because I couldn't find it anywhere else. But it's The Whoopie Boys with Paul Rodriguez and the kid that was in Caddyshack.
Oh, I forgot all about that movie. Nice.
But, I mean, it's not as funny today as it was when I was younger. But it has that immature humor, and I kind of like the immature humor. I'm not going to lie. Like, toilet humor's funny. That's the other thing about Just Go With It. When the guy from Grandma's Boy is sleeping in the bathtub and has his hand in the toilet, and Jennifer Aniston's kid comes in, sits on the toilet, and shits on his hand. That shit is funny to me.
Nice.
But, Whoopie Boys was the same thing. The premise of the movie is they're trying to help this girl get her inheritance, so they have to go to charm school, and they're both, like, classless. It was one of Paul Rodriguez's last 20 movies. I don't.
Mhm.
I disappeared afterwards.
Right. He had a I think the funniest thing he did after that was his cameo in Rat Race,
Yeah.
where he plays
Yeah.
the cab driver who lost a bunch of money on the Super Bowl that Cuba Gooding Jr., who would be the official, screwed up the coin toss.
Right. And my wife was in the other room. She wasn't even watching the movie, but she was hearing it, and she would chuckle a couple times while I was watching it. So I mean, I would say go out and watch it and make your own opinion on it.
To me, that means it held up.
Yeah. Yeah. But it didn't make my top 10. And I only have I narrowed mine down to 10. So
you know what, I will be smart about this, and I won't. I'll do this right now. So we're talking about honorable mentions. There's a couple I'll throw out as highly underrated comedies that you need to check out if you've never heard of, or you need to go back and rewatch them again because they do still hold up and they're great. One of them is a movie called Soap Dish. Now, this is kind of like a reality TV show that happens in the background of a daytime soap opera.
right.
It stars Sally Field, Kevin Kline, Whoopi Goldberg, and a younger Robert Downey Jr. And this is just, they're completely dysfunctional. And oh yeah, Elizabeth Shue is also in it. And they bring back a character who had died. He lost his head, but they put it back on him with a precedent-setting 3-day operation in Vienna, and he comes back out, but there's a real life spin to it. So the characters are having on-screen an affair, and they're having off-screen affairs, and the Kevin Kline is the father of the one girl, and it's a great comedy. It's feel good, it's funny, and there's so many quotable lines from it. The next one on there, underrated, I put on there, is a comedy called Noises Off. Now this is another ensemble cast. It's got the likes of Christopher Reeve and Michael Caine and Carol Burnett and Denholm Elliott and John Ritter. I mean, and what it is, it's all about a play called Noises Off that they're putting on. Michael Caine is the director, and he's trying to get this off-Broadway play up and running so that they can actually eventually make a Broadway run. And it takes place in the movie it's done really clever because you only see the first act of the play. But the movie itself is done in 3 acts, which most movies are. And well, actually all movies are, but the first part you're seeing is the tech rehearsal, watching everything that happens on the stage as it happens. So when something messes up, everybody comes out on stage. The next one is back of house. So you're seeing the same thing from the back of the house, and they're all pissed off at each other, and it becomes like this what's the word I'm looking for? Slapstick.
Okay.
It becomes like the slapstick thing, but they all have to be quiet because they're performing on stage at the same time. So and then the last act is you see both sides, and it's just they're a complete disaster, and it's a highly underrated comedy, but it's well worth it. You should check it out.
And while you're on that topic, I kind of want to interject with another one that should check out. And it came out, I want to say, in like '93, but it was a remake of a Shakespeare play, Much Ado About Nothing, with Michael Keaton and a bunch of other big name actors.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find it to rewatch it to see if it held up to time. I know they came out with another one in like the 2000s, but I watched that one back then. I truly enjoyed it, and it was nice. And that's where they got the idea for remaking, Romeo and Juliet in modern times and shit like that.
Yeah.
That first back in the '90s.
Yeah. Steve Martin went on that run where he was remaking old classics like Roxanne,
right,
and right. Stuff like that. So yeah, but as we go through this, we'll probably find that we have some of the same because we didn't compare lists, right? But now you may agree with some of them that we come up with, and you may not. And if you have some that we don't talk about that you do think should be on there, drop us a line.
Exactly. Just leave it in the comments below, or contact us on our social medias and blah blah blah. All the good shit that everybody
Yes.
says on YouTube and podcasts and all that other stuff. But I'm going to start with my top 10. I'm going to start off with
Okay.
my number 10 movie is Buying the Cow.
Okay. What is
And
Buying the Cow?
Buying the Cow starts. Oh, what is that guy's name? Why now I can't remember. So it's about this guy who doesn't want to commit to a relationship, or does, and it's just going through this random encounters. And he has this buddy who's like, a player, so to speak. It's got Jerry. What is his name? Jerry O'Connell. Is it?
Oh yeah.
And it came out in 2002.
Mr. Rebecca Maine Stamos.
Yes.
You don't know
And
him,
I
he's
will.
also the fat kid from Stand By Me.
Right. It's basically, the description is a commitment-averse man frantically hits the dating scene after his girlfriend starts pressuring him to pop the question. So what's great about this is, again, the supporting actors. This got Bill Bellamy in it, Bridget Wilson, something. Ryan Reynolds is in this.
Oh.
And Ryan Reynolds is basically, and I'm sorry, this is going to be offensive, but in guy terms, Ryan Reynolds is a pussy hound in this movie. I mean, he's got these women that are just devoted to him. And at one point, they're golfing, and he's driving the golf cart, and he wouldn't let the girls were like his caddies and stuff. They're carrying all their shit. He ran over one of the girls with the golf cart.
Nice.
But it is a really funny movie. I recommend it. Give it a try out. It's basically a guy movie. I mean, I don't see a lot of girls that are probably going to like it. But, if you're a guy, you probably are going to get a kick out of it.
Nice. So my number 10 is a typical one that's probably on most top comedy lists, and it is a Steve Martin classic, The Jerk.
Yes!
How
did that not make my list?
I love this movie, and I quote this movie all the time. Now, if you've never seen this Rob Reiner classic, if you don't know who Rob Reiner is, he was Meathead from the All in the Family TV show. He directed other great movies like When Harry Met Sally. This is Spinal Tap, which foreshadowing, and he directed The Princess Bride. So foreshadowing. He directed a lot of great movies, but this one is, to me, what put Steve Martin on the map for me anyway, because I was young when this movie came out and didn't really. We stayed up late and watched Saturday Night Live when he was on there when we were kids.
Oh yeah.
I remember having a house party for the very first episode of Saturday Night Live when we were little kids. We were all running around our house. We didn't know what the fuck was going on, but our parents were in the other room laughing and drinking.
Right.
Watching George Carlin on Saturday Night Live,
and Chevy Chase and Steve Martin, and we kept hearing, "Hey kids, get away from that! You don't know what the hell that is!" And our parents quote that over and over and over again.
Exactly. But this one is just about this lovable character named Navin Johnson, who just happens to just flow through life, and he's an idiot. He's a moron. He's a simpleton. He was a white man raised by a black family, and there's a great part in that where his quote unquote father tells him, you're not really my son. And he looks at his skin. You mean it's gonna stay this color?
Oh yeah.
There's so many great lines in that, and once again he has such a great supporting cast. Bernadette Peters is amazing as his just as ignorant wife.
Yeah. It was funny because I mean they kind of made in today's terms, they would be rich white trash.
Yes.
And then go broke.
Yes. They went from the trailer park to the mansion, back to the trailer park.
Right.
But the stuff that he buys when he's super rich is like to me, it was his character was what they based the Dumb and Dumber characters around.
Oh yeah, definitely, without a doubt. All right, so my number 9 is a movie from 1981, and since we're on the Steve Martin kick, we got to go right into Chevy Chase.
Okay.
And this is a movie called, and it's not the Vacations and stuff like that because those are overplayed. This is one I kind of went with a little bit obscure for some. This is a movie called Modern Problems.
Oh yeah, nice.
And Chevy Chase is this really stressed out air traffic control guy in that, and he's following this truck, and this toxic waste from the truck goes over his car, and he develops these powers. And at one point, it's got the lady from she was in one of those sitcoms when we were kids. She was an African, Nell Carter.
Oh, Nell Carter, yeah.
And she was like the maid at this house they went to get away from the city and everything. And this guy's hitting on his girlfriend, and he's jealous, and so he's starting using these powers to like get at this guy. And at one point, Nell Carter comes out and puts this voodoo stuff around his bed, and he gets down on the floor on his knees using these powers he's got. He snorts it all up like he's snorting cocaine, goes and just slides around the floor all the way around, under no power of his own. And it is a funny movie. Chevy Chase was
like it.
Yeah. Chevy Chase has always been funny to me. Not so much anymore, but back then he was really.
If you get past the fact that supposedly he's a big prick.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but supporting cast like Patty D'Arbanville, Dabney Coleman, Brian Doyle Murray was in it. A lot of good people.
If you don't know who Dabney Coleman is, look him up. He's been in a lot of great movies, great character actor, but he was the asshole boss in the movie 9 to 5.
Yes.
Where he was just simply phenomenal. He had a TV show for a while where he was a dad, and he had 3 daughters. I can't remember the name of it. But
yeah, I can't remember it either, but I know what you're talking about.
But he was the cantankerous old patriarch of the family, and he had 3. It's essentially Better Things, but with Dabney Coleman instead of what's her name from that show, where she's got 3 daughters and she's a comedian.
I don't know that one.
Okay, that's a TV show. It's out on like FX right now. Anyway, Dabney Coleman is hilarious. I love that man. He was really funny.
Yeah, he played a rich prick in that movie, and he was like always hitting on Chevy Chase's girlfriend. So he got his comeuppance in that movie.
Yes. Okay, so my next one is it's a remake of a French film, but this one is called The Birdcage. It's got Robin Williams and Nathan Lane playing this gay couple who run a Miami nightclub. And now Nathan Lane's performance in this is, comedy gold. The supporting cast on this is one of the things that makes it best, because Hank Azaria plays their live-in butler / maid, whatever you want to call him, Agador. Right. And he's got this fake Cuban accent that is just too funny. Where he says, he's like, "It's my watermelones, my natural heat."
Right. And you can't go wrong with Robin Williams. I mean, he's done some crap movies, but he's done, he's in some of my top movies of all time, but most of them are the dramas he's in, because he is such a versatile actor that people just never gave him credit for.
Right.
I mean, you look at movies like Insomnia, where he played the freaked out guy,
Yeah, or 1 Hour Photo.
Right.
Was another example of that.
Right.
But in this movie, it was about Robin Williams and Nathan Lane are a gay couple, and then their son is getting married to who Ally McBeal what's her name? Clarissa Flockhart.
Yeah, that's it.
And her parents are super conservative senator and his wife, who's played by Diane Wiest and Gene Hackman. Now, what the whole thing is them getting together to meet the families together because the two kids want to get married. Well, the conservative, ultra conservative dad, Gene Hackman, hates, or he's got this whole anti-homosexual propaganda.
Yeah,
So,
he's a homophobe.
Yeah, and they're trying to cover up the fact that they're a homosexual couple, but then he gets caught in the owner of a gay club's house, and then they have to go through this whole thing where they dress him up in drag and get him out.
Oh yeah.
The characters in that are just great, and the performances are awesome. I won't say I was hesitant to watch this movie at first. I just thought, and I didn't really want to, because I'm kind of with you on the awkward comedies,
right?
But there was something about this one that was, I mean, it's actually just it's uplifting, it's positive all the way through it, and the performances are hysterical.
Oh yeah, hands down. I mean, Robin Williams is, and teaming him up with Nathan Lane. These are two incredible comedic presences on any screen. I mean, both of them could steal a show by themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember watching Monday Night Football one time, and Robin Williams came up into the booth, and they made a mistake of giving him a live mic, and they lost control of the show for about 20 minutes because he's a man who is always on.
Yeah.
Or what? Sorry, rest in peace.
Exactly.
It was a horrible loss to the comedy and the theater community when he passed.
The thing that I was, so, those that listen to this, I've talked about this in the past. I've done improv comedy or improv theater in the past. And one of my idols for improv theater was a man named Jonathan Winters. Mm-hmm. And Jonathan Winters happened to be one of Robin Williams' icons as well. But they were together on the show Mork and Mindy.
Right.
They brought Winters in to play his son, which is funny because he's twice his age.
Right.
But if you know anything, the Mork from Ork and them, they're all like the Benjamin Buttons. Their age is reversed. They start old and go to egg.
And it's funny too, because like Mork and Mindy was actually a spinoff, and it was one of those rare spinoffs that actually did well because it was a spinoff from Happy Days, because Mork first appeared on Happy Days.
Yes, he did. Which that's also a great story, because Happy Days was one of those shows that it bred a lot of other shows.
Yeah.
It itself came from a movie.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So it came from another show called Love American Style.
Yeah.
And then it brought us Mork and Mindy. It brought us Joni Loves Chachi. It brought us
Joni Loves Chachi.
Mork and Mindy. So it brought a lot of
Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah.
All right. So my number 8. Get back on track here.
Okay.
I like this movie purely because I'm a big Kevin Smith fan, and you're going to see that this kind of foreshadowing again. But also because of its take on the religious nut jobs. And this movie is Dogma. Okay. And it's one of the few roles I actually like Ben Affleck in. Because I'm not, go out and say it, haters hate, but I'm not a Ben Affleck fan. I don't like him in many movies. I think he plays the same thing over and over. I will say The Accountant, he was great in. That role suited him great. But
it was almost like he was actually on the spectrum.
Right. So, but this movie was great. It's got Jay and Silent Bob. It's got George Carlin. It's got Alanis Morissette playing God.
George Carlin playing a priest.
Yep. And it was just very violent, very funny. And Chris Rock was in it. as Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are these avenging angels that are coming down to just basically destroy the earth.
Yeah. And they find a loophole to be forgiven for all their sins to get back into heaven.
Right.
And yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Kevin Smith also did it's like Red Nation or something like that. It's not a comedy, but when you first start talking about the religious zealots, it's about a religious cult that captures some people and they have to fight their way out of this cult.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I thought you were going. I was like, damn, that's dark. That's not really funny, but I guess you can laugh at cults.
So, the thing is, Kevin Smith is a very underrated director. He has directed more things than you would actually believe. I mean, I guarantee you've watched some TV shows that he's directed, and you just don't even know it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my number 8. What's yours?
Before we get off the Kevin Smith thing, it was just announced that Marvel's going to do a bunch of adult animated shows, like on Adult Swim type of stuff. And the shows that they're going to do, the characters that are going to be the basis of the shows, Mordok, which is interesting, Dazzler, which done right could be interesting, Hydra, which could be interesting, but my favorite, written by Kevin Smith, Howard the Duck.
Awesome.
It's going to be an animated thing. He's one of the writers. Chelsea Handler's a writer, and Patton Oswalt are writers for not all in the same show, but for all of these shows.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I think that can be cool because, let's face it, George Lucas screwed up when he had the opportunity to make a Howard the Duck movie. Yeah. They tried to do to Howard the Duck what they were actually able to do with the Ninja Turtles, make it a children's product where it didn't start off as a children's product. But they fucked that movie up.
Right. Well, and Kevin Smith has got experience in it. He did the animated. He was involved in the animated series Batman Beyond.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's not like it's his first rodeo in it.
Yeah, and it's not his first rodeo in superheroes either, because he actually wrote the first couple of different drafts for Man of Steel, which they scrapped his whole project, but he actually wrote the Superman movie. So he's got experience.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think his twisted humor could really do justice to Howard the Duck. So we'll see. We'll see on that one.
Right. All right. Your number 8, Jason.
Okay, my number 8. There's going to be kind of a sliding theme from yours because this one also has Ben Affleck in it. But this is an ensemble cast, and it gave us the birth of Ben Affleck, the birth of Matthew McConaughey, the birth of Mila Jovovich, who went on to be in every Resident Evil movie. But this is Dazed and Confused.
All right.
Exactly. There are so many quotable lines from this movie. Yep. There's so many quotable lines. And
who was the long-haired stoner dude with the dark face, skinny little dude? Go
Rory
ahead.
Cochrane is his name.
Yeah.
His actor's name, because he ended up going on to be in a CSI Miami.
Okay. Yep.
Slater. No, was it Slater?
Mm-mm. No. But anyways, he was one of my favorite characters in that movie.
Yes. You may not recognize them all now, but a lot of them did go on to illustrious careers, but at the time it birthed them going off to doing a lot of different projects. But this is one of those feel-good hazing stories, I guess. But for me, it resonated because I could look at it as I was at different points in my schooling, I guess, middle/high school. I was 2 different characters in that. I was Randall Pink Floyd, later, captain / to the football team bullshit, who got along with everybody. but I was also Wiley Wiggins' character, the kid.
Right.
Because my brother was an outgoing senior when I was in 8th grade. My brother was a senior in high school, and I hung out with not with all of them. I hung out with him and his friends a lot. So I was known throughout I went to a small high school. So you start hanging out with, you're an 8th grader, you're hanging out with seniors. Then next thing you know, it's like the juniors remember you when you were a freshman. Now you're kind of a part of their little, their group,
Right.
a little bit. So to me, I could look at it as it was two different time periods of my life within the same movie.
Right. Right. Yeah, I can understand that. I'm going to move on to my number 7. This is going to be a quick one because it's a pretty recent movie, but I mean, I'm sure everybody has seen it. And there's not really a lot that we really need to talk about it, but it's Deadpool.
Okay.
It's considered an action movie, but it's funny as shit. I mean, you have some of the best lines ever from Ryan Reynolds, and he is a comedic genius.
Yeah, I would put a caveat to that. I'd put Deadpool/Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
Unless you have Deadpool 2 later in your list.
No, I don't.
Because to me, the second one was just as funny.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
They were both great movies. And I know I'm rambling longer. This is your movie, but I'm rambling longer about it than you are. There's just certain people that were born to be certain characters.
Oh, exactly.
Like, Pierce Brosnan was born to be James Bond 10 years before he became James Bond, before the whole genre changed.
Yeah.
He stuck being Remington Steele, but Ryan Reynolds was born to be Deadpool.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, there was nobody that could be that character besides him.
No. I can't think of a single person that could have done that, especially when, he's breaking the fourth wall. He's talking straight to the audience.
And I mean, there is very few things that Ryan Reynolds is in that are not good. I mean, he's done some rom-coms, but I mean, you and I have talked about it before. I mean, he got his start in a TV show called Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, and we loved that show, and it was short-lived, but it was unfortunate that it was short-lived because it was an awesome show.
It was funny. It was really funny. And I wrote a blog post about my 13 underrated TV shows, and I forgot to put that one on there.
Huh. How could you?
So if you want to check out my list and make fun of me for not doing that, it's at jasonscud.com. You can find it there. But that being said, Ryan Reynolds has done some interesting things like the voices. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I watched part of it. I didn't get all the way through it because I got distracted with something else.
He's a loner. He's not really a typical character he would normally play, but he's got 2 pets. There's a cat and a dog. The dog is kind of is his angel, and the cat is his demon on the shoulder, and ends up killing a couple coworkers.
Yeah, they had it.
Chopping them up and putting them in Tupperware.
Well, at least he used all the parts.
It's a funny movie. There's parts of it are funny. Anyway.
Right. All right, so you're number 7. You're number 7, Jason.
My number 7 is 40-Year-Old Virgin.
I love that movie.
We mentioned before that there's awkward comedies that it's like, but this one does. I don't get that nervous, tense feeling watching.
Exactly. And fun fact about this movie, it's where Kat Dunham, or however we say her last name, got her start. The chick from Two Broke Girls.
Mm-hmm.
She played the daughter of his love interest in that movie.
Yeah, the one that wanted to have sex.
Right. Yeah, a little fun fact about that. Sorry, go ahead and go on with your little spit.
This is one where you can go ahead and say that the main character is a great character, but the supporting cast is equally, if not funnier.
Oh yeah.
There is a deleted scene in the DVD that you can watch Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen going back and forth, doing the "you know how I know you're gay" thing when they're playing video games in the chair, and they go on for 20 minutes.
I can't. I just can't stop laughing about that now. You know,
Because you like Coldplay.
one of the really underrated performances in that movie was from Romany Malco, the African American guy in that.
Mm,
He was incredible in that movie. He was
yes.
funny as fuck. And I mean, Elizabeth Banks did a great job too, and so did Leslie Mann.
Yeah. When he's crying, telling the story about his wife leaving him because he came home and he jumped in the shower and his wife came in and she caught him cheating. So how'd you catch me? Because I was still wearing the condom.
Yeah. But like the Indian guy, Gary Bednob, his character Mooj in that movie was just raw and funny, and same with Jane Lynch.
Oh yeah, I love Jane Lynch. But one of my favorite things is a tiny cameo from Mindy Kaling, where she was the supposed ex-girlfriend of Paul Rudd, and they meet. Seth Rogen meets her at a speed dating thing. Her name was Amy, and he meets her there. And it's like, you need to stop messing with my boy. And she's like, I changed my phone number, I changed my email address, I even moved. It's like, I did not know that. So that's when he learns that his boy was a stalker.
Right. Oh, and another great one is his love interest in that movie, which is played by Catherine Keener. She was really good in that movie, but she also has, some other great movies. Another one to check out with her, and if you like rom-coms, it's a movie called Peace, Love, and Misunderstanding, and it's got the guy who plays Negan in The Walking Dead in it.
Okay.
It's an interesting movie. It's pretty good. If you like rom-coms, give it a check.
I haven't seen that. I have not seen that one. She's also really good in being John Malkovich.
Yes. But back to the 40-year-old version and Steve Carell. You can't talk about that movie without talking about the waxing scene.
Oh yeah.
She's ripping off his hair, and he's like, "Ah!"
I hate you. Why are you smiling?
Why are you laughing at me?
Because he actually did it.
Yes.
That's the thing that made that scene so funny, is that's his real hair being ripped off.
But and what pop star's name did he scream out when he
Kelly
was doing
Clarkson.
it? Kelly Clarkson. Yeah, that was awesome. Oh, I died in that scene. That was just so funny.
Yeah.
All right. This leads to my number 6, which we kind of already talked about earlier in our honorable mentions, but Grandma's Boy is my number 6.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
I mean, how can you not find 3 old ladies getting stoned out of their gourd funny as hell?
Right. They think it's tea.
Yep. They're drinking his tea, and it was his weed, and these 3 old ladies and it's got, his grandma is the mom from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yes.
And it also has, was it Mrs. Brady in there?
No.
The other, well, anyway, so one of his friends sleeps with one of his grandma's roommates, and he's like, she invented the hand job.
Right.
And one of the few roles I like Jonah Hill in, because he didn't really talk a lot, but his most famous line from the movie is, I sucked my first tit for 12 hours.
Right. Yeah. There are so many great lines from that. Okay, so you were talking about your son watching Happy Gilmore. My son was watching Grandma's Boy at about the same age. Just because I watched it all the time and he happened to be there with me.
Right. Who was the supporting actress in that?
Linda Cardellini.
What else is she in?
She was from, she got her start in Freaks and Geeks.
Okay.
And then she went on to be Velma from the Scooby-Doo movies.
And she was on Hot Velma too.
Yeah. Then that's the thing. It's like Velma was hotter than Daphne.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was wrong. I didn't mind though.
Don't judge a monkey.
She was also She ended
Shirley
up.
Jones. Shirley Jones from the Partridge Family. That's the one. That's the old lady.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Um,
And Nick Swardsden is the guy who was also in Just Go With It. But he's one of the main actors in Grandma's Boy as well.
yeah. Linda Cardellini was also Hawkeye's wife in the Avengers movie.
Okay.
But Nick Swardsden, one of my favorite roles that he's ever done is it Joey? He's the roller skating guy from Reno 911.
Oh, okay.
They find him all over the place. He's a male prostitute that roller skates, and just hilarious.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some awkward humor in this one as well, but it's not as bad as the other ones, and it's quick and it's over with quickly.
Yeah.
But it's more awkward because it's like, okay, he was caught masturbating because he was staying at his friend's house, and he came on his mom when she walked in the bathroom because he was masturbating to a doll, an action figure.
An action figure.
You came on my mom. Yeah, well, you're in your race car bed.
I can't stop.
All right, what's your number 6?
Okay, my next one cleans it up quite a bit. This is probably one of my favorite clean comedies of all time. It is, of course, You're Killing Me, Smalls, The Sandlot.
Oh, I love that movie.
Me too.
I mean, and this is one of those movies, like, my oldest boy, Alex, loves that movie because I watched it with him when he was younger, and he will just watch it over and over and over again.
It's such a I don't even know how to describe it. It's one of those movies that if you've never seen it, you just have to watch it and you will laugh all the way through it.
Oh yeah. And it's got I mean, it's your typical 80s movie. I mean, for me, I would put it above the Goonies.
Okay.
But I wasn't a big fan of the Goonies like everybody else was. It didn't touch me like Sandlot did. Sandlot, I could relate to more than the Goonies because we kind of lived parts of the Sandlot.
Yeah. See, on the West Coast here, especially being in the Pacific Northwest, the Goonies would outrank most of them just because it was filmed here.
Right.
You can actually still go to the house that the kids were losing. You can go to that house and visit it today.
Oh, okay. But I mean, for you and I growing up here in Michigan in the summers, we did that drop-in baseball and shit like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more relatable to us.
Right. And the ghost stories that they're telling, and going to the public pool and all that other stuff. Those are things that we did as kids. They were
sneaking porn mags.
It's just a feel good, fun, comedy.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I really don't have any of the feel good ones on my list, but I do enjoy them. So I'm gonna go to my number 5 because I got to get my Robin Williams fix in here. My favorite Robin Williams comedy is Good Morning Vietnam.
Oh, good one, Adrian Cronauer.
Yep, because not only is it funny, but it's also a drama. I mean, I like the movies that are funny with a serious note to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, his role in that movie as like basically a radio DJ who reads the news, but is only allowed to read so much of the news, and they redact. He has all these people that sit there and cut out things. You can't read that. You can't say that. And he ends up reading shit he's not supposed to, and basically getting fired and sent back to America. But it is a great, great movie. It's touching on many levels.
The Tweedledee and Tweedledum as the censors.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good movie, and that's a great testament to the talent that Robin Williams had. I mean, now there's a lot of people that say that he was a hack when it came to doing stand-up because they said, no, you didn't really improvise it. Well, it's like nobody improvises an entire set. He would improvise the order of the set. Most comedians would go on that every word is scripted. Yeah. His words would, for the most part, he knew what he was going to say, but he felt how the audience was reacting to what part he brought up next.
Right. Yeah, like, and a perfect example is his Live at the Met. This came out. I actually watched it. It was on my birthday. I was in my 30s. But he was talking about having kids, and after he settled down and stuff, and he stopped all the drugs. So he's like, so like, yeah, the first word my kid learned was fuck, and so I'm pushing my kid in a stroller down the street, and this lady comes up and goes, "Oh, what a cute little baby." My kid looks up at her and goes, "Fuck you." Yep, that's the Williams boy. But he knew how to read a room, he knew how to read a crowd, and he knew how to work them.
Yes, and he doing that was a perfect character for him. Like once again, what we talked about Ryan Reynolds being the only person that could have done that. Robin Williams is the only person that could have done Adrian Cronauer for that movie, because they just allowed him. They just put film in the camera and just let him go.
Yep. I mean, nobody else could have done that. Good morning, Vietnam. Not like him.
Yeah. And what I loved about that character in that performance was not only was he genuine and he was fast and he was funny, but he was on point with the history.
Oh yeah.
Of it. Yeah. His jokes were current to the time, and he's coming up with this shit off the top of his head.
Yeah, and also the evolution of his character throughout the movie, and seeing how he's actually touching these soldiers, and becoming and giving them being their beacon, basically.
Yeah.
And he's seeing that, and there's a scene where he's meeting soldiers and find out where they're from and cracking jokes at them with them, but they're just like, they're basically saying thank you for giving us a little bit of laughter in this dark period of our life.
And after he did this, I don't know, it's not as well known, but he became a part of the USO. So he would go and actually visit troops and talk to them and perform in front of them and just sit down and talk with them and let them talk to him. And
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is so awesome.
So he was in Iraq with the soldiers, performing for him, and he did a lot of great for the soldiers after this movie came out.
That's awesome.
It's a sad thing that he's gone.
Oh yeah. All right. So what's your number 5, Jason?
Okay, my number 5 is kind of like going into theme, so I must have had something in my head. My next one is another baseball movie. And this one is actually kind of it's Bull Durham.
Oh, I was expecting to say Major League or something like that, but I like Bull Durham.
So the thing about Bull Durham that people don't know is the Kevin Costner character is based off of Kurt Russell.
Yeah. Kurt Russell was an actual minor league baseball player. He played for his dad, and there's a great documentary called the Bad Bastards of Baseball, I think is what it's called. There was, back in the day, they used to have independent teams that would go play minor league teams. Okay.
And there was a team here in the city of Portland, Oregon, that Kurt Russell was on. Now, the guy who wrote Bull Durham sat down with Kurt Russell and wanted him to play the Kevin Costner part. He declined the role, but most of the stories of the baseball part of Bull Durham came from Kurt Russell's experiences. Okay. That's cool. I did not know that. So, but now that movie's out and it's been out for so long, I can't see anybody else playing that role other than Kevin Costner. Right. I can't see Kurt Russell playing that role and making it as good a movie as it was. Right. Right. That's not a slight at Kurt Russell at all. I mean, fuck, he lived the story. Right. Well, I mean, he's funny in his own right. He's got his own funny movie. Yeah. I mean, none of them make my list, but I do enjoy him. Yeah, they didn't make my list either, but I mean, I loved him in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I mean, he's been in a ton of. Big Trouble in Little China. That's a great one. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, and I mean, he's also another versatile actor, because I mean, he not just that, but he also has like the Escape from L.A. and Escape from New York and all that. Yeah, The Thing. Yep. Not to mention all the Disney movies he did before that. Right. All right, so that's going to lead up to my number 4.
My number, and apparently I had a theme too, because most of mine are all dark comedies. But my number 4 is a movie from the '80s, which apparently is another theme with me. But this one called Heathers.
Oh yeah.
This has Winona Ryder and Christian Slater, and basically Winona Ryder starts out the movie as one of the popular kids and is fed up with all the bullshit that goes with it, and her and Christian Slater just kind of go on a killing spree throughout the entire movie and kill off all the popular kids.
Yeah. And so there's Winona Ryder, and then there's 3 girls named Heather.
Right.
And they're the clique.
Right.
But to get to the top of the clique, they start knocking off Heathers.
Right.
And weird fact is, like, they tried to make this a TV show just recently.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Now that you gotta know your time period. Right now, everybody's screaming about gun violence and all this other stuff. So you're getting to a show about kids killing kids, and it's going to be funny.
Right.
Not today. No. Just leave it as it was.
Right.
Funny movie from back in the day when you could get away with that shit. Don't try it now.
Right. Use some common fucking sense.
Right. But loved Christian Slater at this time period.
Oh yeah, this was his best time period. I mean, now he's more known for being like a voice actor, like with Archer and some other things he does.
He was Rick and Morty. He was one of the Vindicators.
Yep. But back then,
he was in the Robot for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, he actually in Archer he actually voice acts as himself with the CIA agent.
Yeah.
But but back then, he had the world in his hands. He did Heathers, he did Pump Up the Volume, all these other movies that are like cult classics today.
I love Pump Up the Volume because of the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
It was a good movie. You and I both went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and I had this because we were in different programs, but the program that I was in had but we were in the same program, weren't we?
Yeah, we're both going for the music or the video.
Yeah, we just had different instructors. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Because I had this guy and I had the history of radio thing. We watched that there, but oh man. Because it's all about this kid who starts up like this little clandestine little radio show, and today we call it podcasting.
Right.
But the FCC gets involved because he's broadcasting it, and it's just it doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah. Back then, everything had to be licensed and everything else, and the FCC controlled everything. But now with the internet, there's no way they can.
Yeah. So what if we were doing this today, or what we're doing today, if we were doing it back then, the FCC would come down because we broadcast it over ham radio and.
Right. And they would nail us for our language and for all this other shit.
Yeah.
Basically, fuck you, FCC.
Yeah.
You can't censor me.
This is a great time period too for Winona Ryder.
Oh yeah. Those two, they were big in the '80s. That's when they had their best stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I loved her post shopping or shoplifting time period now, like with Stranger Things. I think she's great in that.
Yeah, and she was good in Mr. Deeds.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that movie.
But I mean, she's still a good actress, but she was not the top. She's not at the top of her game like she was back then.
Yeah.
Actually, her publicist wasn't at the top of their game. Isn't at the top of their game now as they were back then.
Right.
It's not a knock on her. It's a knock on her publicist.
Yeah, she was in some great movies back then. Singles and Beetlejuice, and there's countless others. But
right, yeah. And so that was my number 4. What's your number 4, Jason?
My number 4 is one that I just absolutely love, and I've already mentioned it once. No, sorry, that's the next one. My number 4 is a movie that I absolutely love, and it's had as kind of a theme going here because this is the second time I'm going to say this guy's name, Kevin Kline, but this is Kevin Kline hooking up with Monty Python and Jamie Lee Curtis to do Fish Called Wanda.
Awesome. How did I not get Monty Python movies on here? What the? Okay. Awesome movie. Go ahead.
This is about a jewel heist that happens in England. There's a band of capers, and then there's a barrister slash a lawyer who gets involved, and there's John Cleese, who's the barrister, and then Michael Palin is this animal lover who's trying to assassinate this witness that can spot the guy, and he's
And Jamie Lee Curtis was
Jamie Lee Curtis on top of this in her best time.
Yes, in her prime when she was like a goddess to all of us guys, and we were like drooling over her.
This is Trading Places. This is between Trading Places and then what's that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that she was in?
True Lies.
True Lies. Yeah, this is right in between that time period. So she's on top of her game, and it's hilarious from beginning to end. If you want a kind of action crime movie that will make you laugh from beginning to end, and Kevin Kline is, to me, this is his best role.
Oh yeah. It's to me his best role was in the movie Grand Canyon.
That's a great movie. Great movie.
Completely underrated movie with an all-star comedy cast, which is actually a drama.
Yeah.
Steve Martin, Danny Glover, Kevin Kline.
Yeah. I was like 16 or 17 when that movie came out, and I actually went to the theater and saw it twice.
Yeah. I watch it all. Whenever I get a chance, I watch it.
Nice.
I love that. It's a feel-good movie. It makes you think about life. That's why I like it.
Right. But Fish Called Wanda, it's, there's a fish. Her name is Wanda, but the movie's not around the fish.
Right. But it's a great movie. It is a really good movie. All right, so that leads to my number 3, which again, dark comedy, Kevin Smith, Clerks 2.
Oh, okay.
Where in the movie, Dante's sidekick, I can't remember.
Randall.
Yeah, sums up the Lord of the Rings perfectly, in my opinion. So I don't want to give that away. I want people to go out and watch that movie because it is a great movie. I mean, you got interspecies erotica in it.
Very, very much so. Very much so. And okay, so most of the time I hate movies where we pick up and figure out what these beloved characters from a cult movie would be them like in the future.
Right.
You would think, I want to see what Napoleon Dynamite and Uncle Rico are up to today. Then they make a movie about it, and it's just shit.
Sucks.
Even though they haven't done that, they made the cartoon, which was shitty in its own right. But you don't necessarily want to see it. You want to see it because you're interested, but you don't want to see it because you know it's going to fucking suck.
Right.
Clerks 2 was not that case.
No, it was better than the first.
Dante and Randall were up to. And what did they do? They went from working in a convenience store and a video store to working at a burger joint. Right.
And Randall's ignorant racist
bring it back.
Yeah. I mean, Wanda Sykes almost killed him in the movie.
Yes.
because he didn't realize that his grandmother was racist, and he didn't realize the term porch monkey was racist.
Yes.
And so he wanted to take it back, and he used it in front of Wanda Sykes, who is a hilarious African-American actress. And I don't think she was acting so much as really wanting to kill him.
Yeah. And my favorite part about that whole scene was the husband of Wanda, who's holding her back, mad at him, not because of what he said, because he didn't get his food.
Right.
He wasn't allowed to eat the food.
He's still trying to grab the food. She's like, "No, you leave that goddamn food alone."
Just his disgust.
Like, I just wanted to eat. Yeah, I love that movie on so many levels. I mean, it's the relationship between the characters in the movies. It's the little geeky guy, the geeky kid that they're kind of raising up to be them.
Yeah.
When he gets older, the relationship between Dante and his girlfriend that is so out of his league. Where you got what's her name, who's his manager, the chick from Daredevil.
Yeah. Why can't I think of her name?
But yeah, and she's a great actress in her own right. Rosario Dawson.
Yes, she started in the movie Kids.
Yeah, and but the relationship they had together, whereas they both had feelings for each other, but they're both too stupid to say anything and act on it.
Yes.
But it was the movie had more depth than people really gave it credit for.
Yeah. And I love the character dynamic with Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah.
Because it kind of mirrored Jason Mewes in real life, because he was kicking a heroin addiction.
Right.
After that. And that's where they were no longer selling drugs and doing drugs and partying all the time to, being a little bit more Christian.
Right. This is also one where you get that $15, little man, put that shit in my hand. If that money doesn't show the oh me, oh me, oh. Oh, my jungle love.
I'm a huge fan of those characters. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, probably my favorite Kevin Smith movie.
And they made a sequel to that, Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, but I haven't watched it.
I haven't seen that either.
No.
I haven't seen that either.
But I heard because I watched like some of Kevin Smith's podcasts, and they are talking about making another Jay and Silent Bob movie.
That'd be cool. Because he did so well with Clerks 2, then I'll allow him to. Not like I have a choice, but he better do Howard the Duck first.
Right. Okay, so you're number 3, Jason.
Okay, my number 3 is I'm cramming 2 movies together.
Okay.
To be one, because to me, the level of comedy between the 2 movies, it's the same group. The level of comedy between the 2 movies is indistinguishable, and it is Monty Python's Holy Grail and Life of Brian.
Good. Now I'm saying I don't feel bad about adding that because you did, so I'm glad.
I can't say either movie is better than the other movie.
Right.
Because they're both just amazing spins on stories. Yeah, and I'm calling it a stories that we all love. The King Arthur story and then the Jesus story. And Life of Brian is Brian, who was a boy born on the same day in the same area, who grew up parallel to Jesus, who gets mistaken for Messiah.
Right.
There, and that's got
one of my favorite scenes from that movie is that, and it's like you talked about in previous podcasts, it's kind of like the telephone game where he's left there and he says, the meek shall inherit the earth. The weak shall, no, the what? What'd he say?
Oh, the meek. Good for them. They have such a terrible time.
Right. And then, you got the Holy Grail and my favorite scene. Everybody loves the Death Knight scene and all these others. There's so many great scenes. But for me, it was the father and son, and he's like, someday, son, all this shall be yours. What, the curtains? I don't want the curtains. No, what's outside the curtains? The swamp? I don't want the swamp.
Yes.
Great movie.
I'm the Grand Wizard Tim.
Monty Python had probably the best sense of humor, and the driest and the most twisted, of all time.
They went on to, I don't think there's a comedy movie writer or director that wasn't influenced in some way by Monty Python.
Oh, it's impossible not to be.
Yeah.
It's like bands say never heard of Led Zeppelin.
Right. Sorry, Great White. Or not Great White.
It don't matter.
Kingdom Come.
Yeah, that's it.
Kingdom Come.
All right. So
All right.
that's
Now,
going to move.
We're down to two. We're down to two.
We're down to two and maybe another honorable mention.
Yeah. I have some that would be on other people's lists.
Right.
They just didn't make mine.
Right. But we'll finish this up and we'll talk about them for a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So my number two, again, dark comedy, Army of Darkness.
Oh, good choice.
Evil Dead movies.
Good choice.
This movie will always stand up to the test time. And you got Sam Campbell, is that his name, the actor?
Bruce
Campbell, yes. And I think I get him and Sam Raimi mixed up because Sam Raimi's the director, and he's in all of Sam Raimi movies, including the car from the Evil Dead. And Evil Dead filmed in Michigan, and they're both from Michigan, so a little soft spot in my heart for them. But Army of Darkness has some of the greatest fucking one-liners ever. You've got Bruce Campbell back in medieval time. He's a modern-day person, but somehow got sucked back into medieval time, and he has got to fight these demons and devils and shit like that. And, he's got this girl and said something to him. He's like, oh, that's just what we call pillow talk, baby. Give me some sugar, baby.
Right. But you got ugly real quick.
And then he's like, he's got to say the spell to stop all this stuff. And they're like, you have to say the words exactly how they sound. Okay. Clate, Rado,
right.
And he ends up unleashing hell on the world. And it's just an awesome movie. It's got action. It's got zombies and demons and witches and all this other shit. And it's got comedy. And he's got a shotgun strapped to his hand because he had cut his hand off in the previous movies.
Yes. And that spurned Ash versus Evil Dead, the TV series.
Yes.
Which is really good. Which is funny. If you haven't seen that, that's pretty damn funny too. But I remember, I think there was like 11 times in a row I was at your brother's apartment and that movie was on.
Oh yeah, he watches that nonstop. That's his favorite movie of all time.
He had the poster up. The movie was, every time I went over there, the movie was on. So
yeah, he still loves that movie. He still quotes that movie. We were playing D&D and he put the character in the game.
Nice. So that's one of my criteria for. I mean, you'll see this in my next two. That's one of my criteria for my favorite comedies is quotable lines.
Okay.
Now, pretty much all of them that we've had so far have had a fair amount of quotable lines, and like probably up to this point, 40-Year-Old Virgin and Dazed and Confused probably have the most quotable lines of all of them that I've said so far, except for maybe Python because they're in a realm of their own.
Oh yeah.
But Army of Darkness is definitely up there for quotable lines.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like just going the movie before that, Evil Dead 2, it's a horror film, and it's campy, but it was a horror film. It was touted as a horror film. They didn't try to play the comedy angle at all. But we watched a couple of comedies, and then we watched that movie one night with my brother and one of his friends, and he turns a chainsaw on that he's now got attached to his arm. He looks at the screen and he says, of everything that you could say, and this is when this movie came out, we're in like 85, 86, 87 in that range. We're talking about the pinnacle of cheesy ass action movie lines to be said. Hasta la vista, baby. I'll be back. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Right.
He Bruce Campbell looks at the screen and says, groovy.
Yep. Actually,
the three of us laughed more at that part than we did through the comedies that we watched before that movie.
Right. Well, I think Evil Dead 1 was supposed to be a horror. Evil Dead 2, I think they started letting the comedy out because remember, Evil Dead 2 is where he cut his hand off and his hand was basically taunting him throughout the entire movie. So I mean, that was more of a comic angle. But
It bridged the gap.
yeah, like Evil Dead. I mean, you had a chick being raped by a tree, and
Yeah.
that shit's scary.
Which the remake of it, which Sam Raimi was actually involved with, was actually pretty good.
I haven't seen it.
It was actually pretty good. I was shocked because I didn't really get into a lot of those remakes of like Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff. Even though the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot with Rorschach, Kelly, what's his name from the Bad News Bears?
I don't remember.
He was Rorschach from Watchmen, but he played Freddy Krueger in the remake or the reboot. But it did a little bit more in Freddy's story. It was It was a decent movie.
The remakes that I liked were like the Friday the 13th that had one of the guys from Supernatural in it, and the other one that had the other guy from Supernatural in it. Those remakes I like because I like those actors.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, I'm tired of remakes. I want somebody to come out with an original fucking idea and run with it.
Right.
Break the mold, change it up, make it 4 acts, make it 5 acts, just change it.
Right. I think that's what made Deadpool so good. I mean, not discounting Ryan Reynolds' performance, and even in the second one, not discounting Josh Brolin's any of the performance. There's a lot of great performances in there, but not discounting the performance. It was the same thing. What we loved about Ferris Bueller was Ferris brought us into the story by talking directly to the audience. He broke the fourth wall. They did that with Deadpool, which changed it. We weren't just watching an action film. We weren't watching a superhero movie. Now we're invested in it because he's talking right to me.
Yeah, we're part of
And
it.
so that was what was really refreshing about those movies. And yeah. So I'm going to bring it back to my number 2.
Okay.
And like I was talking about quotable lines, and there are so many quotable lines in this movie. And I did mention this movie earlier. It's a Rob Reiner film. This is Spinal Tap.
Yes. Goes up to 11.
And exactly. That's probably the most famous line from this. Right. My favorite line in the whole thing, if you don't know, it's the Anvil story before Anvil was really a band.
Right.
This is about a hard rock band from England that is on top of the world, and then they come on this world tour to America, and by the time that they leave America, the band is down a couple of members, another drummer has died, and they are now opening for a puppet show.
Right.
If I told them once, I told them 1,000 times, it's Spinal Tap, then puppet show.
Yeah, and life choices, never become a drummer for Spinal Tap. It's short lifespan.
The band Spinal Tap consisted of the comic geniuses of Harry Shearer, who was been voices for The Simpsons since the beginning. He was on the Tracy Ullman Show. He's been on tons of other stuff. Christopher Guest, who went on to do like the movies like Waiting for Guffman and Best in Show, For Your Consideration, those other improv movies. This is one of those. This is the beginning of those improv movies.
Right.
He was also the Six Finger Man in Princess Bride.
Okay.
Michael McKean, who we all know is Squeak or Lenny from Laverne and Shirley. Right. He's been in everything.
Yeah, he really has.
Most recently, I remember him from Better Call Saul as his brother.
Oh yeah, yep. That was a great movie. I mean, as you said, there's so many quotable lines from it. I mean, and like I said, I quoted it goes up to 11, and why does it go up to 11? Because it's better than 10.
Because it's one more.
Yeah.
You're up to 10, and you want, where do you go?
Right.
11.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. So I'm gonna do my number 1, and this movie, I can watch it anytime, anywhere. can always watch it. And it has one of my favorite actors because I really enjoy the angry comics.
Mm.
And besides George Carlin, there's no other. I mean, and when I think of angry comics, I'm not thinking of the popular ones today. I'm thinking of Dennis Leary.
Okay.
And my number one favorite comedy is The Ref.
Oh, I'm. Thank you for throwing that on the list, because when I was going down my list and I mentioned Christmas Story, I was going to say Christmas Story is not even my favorite Christmas movie of all time.
Right.
The Ref is my favorite Christmas movie of all time. And
I'm,
say what you want about Kevin Spacey, maybe a horrible piece of shit, but he's great in this movie.
oh yeah. And who played his wife? Was it Annette Denny? No.
It looks like Annette Bening, but it's not. I can't remember what her name is.
I can look up for you, but I mean, it's got Dennis
J.K.
Leary.
Simmons is the commandant.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a huge Judy Davis. That's it. That's her.
Oh yeah.
But I love his comedic style, his comedic timing, everything about him. And the premise of this movie is Dennis Leary and his buddy did like a jewel heist or some sort of robbery, and they're trying to get away. And they have to. Dennis Leary has to hide out in these people's house and be part of their Christmas and their dinner and everything like that. And he has to play their psychiatrist or their therapist, their couple counselor,
their marriage counselor.
Yes, because Kevin Spacey and his wife are going through, getting ready to go through a divorce, and it's just this back and forth, and he is just sitting there going, "What the fuck? I think I'd rather be in jail."
He kidnaps this family who, unbeknownst to him, is having all of their relatives come over for Christmas Eve.
Right.
And he's on the lam, so he's already been seen by them. He's already taken them hostage, so he has to blend in while the heat dies down.
And Kevin Spacey's mom is such a fucking bitch.
Oh, yes.
And it was the best part is when everybody got involved in tying her up and they were gagging her and just shutting her up. Because pretty much the entire family felt the same way about her, except for his spineless brother.
Yeah. He's a character actor too. I can't remember what his name is, but Christine Baranski plays his wife.
Yes, she is awesome.
And she was on that show Sybil with Sybil Shepherd for a while. She's been in a bunch of stuff, but she has one of my favorite lines right around that point, where she just looks at this bitch of her mother-in-law and says, "Slipper socks, medium."
Yes. Adam Lefebvre is her husband Gary in the movie, and
he's a character actor. He's been in a bunch of stuff, a lot of commercials too. You'll recognize his face if you see him.
Yeah, he was in The Manchurian Candidate. He was in The Bounty Hunter. He's been in just a bunch of shit. But I mean, this movie to me just epitomizes Dennis Leary to a T. As we talked about, Deadpool and all these others, there was nobody else that could play this character than Dennis Leary.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's another actor that is extremely underrated because of his versatility. I mean, he played the bad guy in Judgment Night.
Yeah.
And he was great as it. He's great. And, I mean, he's been in kids' movies. I mean, he was the voice in the dinosaur Ice Age. He was the voice of the Sabretooth in that.
Yeah.
He was Dumbo Drop.
Yeah, he was the police chief in the second Spider-Man series.
Exactly. But I mean, he is such a versatile actor, and I love like his sitcoms that were on TV because they were dark and they were him.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie for me, it's my number one movie. It's my go-to movie that I can go sit down and watch, no matter what. And if I want to laugh, I will always laugh at.
And I'll bring up his I'll YouTube his song "Asshole" when I need to pick me up.
Yeah, John Wayne's not dead; he's frozen. He's pissed off.
I like to park in handicapped spaces, so handicapped people look at me with handicapped faces.
Right. Or in that movie, lady, your husband's not dead; He's hiding from
He's hiding. He's hiding.
All right. So what's your number one?
Good choice. That was a very good choice.
Thank you.
And my number one, I dealt with, and after we're done with this, there were so many obvious choices for the number one spot, because there's tons of movies out there that we didn't cover that people go, hey, well, what about this? What about that? We'll throw them out there in a little bit. But like I said, for comedies, for me, it's quotable lines. And to me, this one is top for me because of quotable lines, because of the fact that this movie can never be made again. There'll never be a time period in history where a movie like this could ever be greenlit. And to me, that's why Blazing Saddles is my number one.
Oh, yeah. Awesome movie.
The racial undertones in this movie would not allow this movie to be made today.
Oh, no.
Because of the two people that wrote it, it got made.
Right.
And it was obviously the one, the only, the magical Mel Brooks.
Yep.
And his writing partner for this was Richard Pryor.
Right.
So if those two names were not attached to this project, it was never made. It would never have been made. But the fact that it was, and you can still watch this movie today, it is a testament to the strength, the courage, and just the sheer fuck you, Hollywood. We're making this fucking movie.
Right.
That they did today. They took a genre that is a movie genre that's typically a white genre and turned it Jewish and black all at the same time.
Yep. And a fun fact about that movie, the scene where there's all these dead bodies laying around, and then one of them farts and they all start laughing and giggling, that was never meant to be in the movie. That's just something that just happened.
Right.
And they're like, fuck it, we're running with it.
When the movie starts off with, what in the wide world of sports is going on here? You guys are lollygagging around like it's 104 or 120 degrees. Can't be much more than 114.
Right. And a black shirt?
Yeah. And there's not. I'm glad the kids were here today. Not only was that pure frontier gibberish, but
wasn't Madeline Kahn in that movie too?
Yes.
And
yes.
She's another extremely underrated actress.
I had the biggest crush on Madeline Kahn for her talent.
Yep, she is just awesome.
She, because she plays the like the German stripper, and Frau Schlitzenglubbitz. That's what it was.
Yeah,
even sausages, the Schlitzenglubbitz. But yeah. Once again, there are 1,001 quotable lines, and hit me up on Twitter and just give me your favorite quotable lines from any of these movies. Hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on social media. Tell us what your favorite movies are. But before you do that, listen to the rest of this.
Right.
Because there are a bunch of obvious choices.
Right. For me, I never go with the obvious choice. I guess it's just me. I like the off-the-wall stuff, but it hit me while we're doing this. I can't talk about a top 10 list without talking about High Fidelity.
Oh, yeah. See, that's a great movie.
Yep, High Fidelity and Empire Records, two great movies from that time period that they have the quotable lines. They have, Jack Black and John Cusack, the way they play off each other, and everybody in High Fidelity is great. Everybody in Empire Records is great. And one of my favorite parts of Empire Records is when the slutty chick is on top of the roof with the other guys singing Sugar High.
Mm-hmm.
And she sang Joey Lauren Adams. That's her name.
Yeah.
And she has a great fucking voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll YouTube that video to listen to it because I love it. But you can't. John Cusack was a staple for us. Better Off Dead. all these other movies from the 80s, the one with the, Say Anything, that's
Say
it,
anything.
with the jukebox over his head, not jukebox, but boombox over his head. But, I mean, to me, can't talk about top 10 lists without talking about High Fidelity. Because that's all they did.
And I'm glad you mentioned Better Off Dead too, because that was one that was. I told you I narrowed it to 20. That was 21.
Yeah, that was. I had a real long list that had narrowed down, but that was in there too. It was like, I want my $2.
Another highly quotable movie.
Yep.
No. Yep. Tentacles. NT. Big difference.
yeah. But yeah, and Empire Records, just the relationship between the people in it. I mean, it was funny, but it was also serious.
Yeah, there's a lot of great people in that. It's like we talked about Slater from Dazed and Confused. He's also in that. Rory Cochrane. He's also in Empire Records.
Yep.
Ethan Embry is also in there. Who?
Aerosmith, Steven Tyler's daughter, Liv Tyler.
Yeah. But going back to High Fidelity, that's one that I always tell whenever somebody goes through a breakup. I always tell them, watch High Fidelity. Forget about the fact that they get back together, because that shit doesn't happen in real life at the very end. But you have to watch to the end, because you have to see Jack Black sing at the end.
Oh, yeah. And just blows their mind. Because Jack Black has an amazing voice. I mean, go watch, Tenacious D, The Pick of Destiny, School of Rock.
Yeah.
He actually sings these songs. He's got a great voice.
Yeah. Yeah, just pick up a Tenacious D album. They're great.
Right.
Okay, but back on track. So the obvious choices I was saying would be Animal House, Caddyshack, Raising Arizona, The Princess Bride, which we didn't mention, was Something About Mary.
Oh, fucking hated that movie.
Then there was.
I don't like Ben Stiller. Sorry.
Okay. Super Bad is another one that people would throw on there.
Awkward.
Yeah, I tried to stay away from. I threw a lot of obvious choices like 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah.
And a couple of those, just because I really love those movies.
Yeah.
But I mentioned there's some great movies you should check out earlier, like Noises Off and Soap Dish. Those are some great movies. But a couple others I was thinking about as we're doing this that are older movies, but they're still really great. Is two I'm just going to throw out there. You probably already know what they are. There's the MASH movie, which is a great comedy. It came out before the TV show did, so the TV show came out after that, and it was still the highest rated non sporting event viewed television event in history was the final episode of the show MASH.
Yes.
But the other one that probably would be on a lot of people's list would be Harold and Maude. It's out there. Then there's you can go the Woody Allen ones, Annie Hall, which I'm not a huge fan of.
I'm not. I appreciate what he's done. I just don't care for his movies.
I appreciate what he's done, but I think there's better ones that he's done. Bullets Over Broadway, I think, is a far funnier movie than Annie Hall.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, like, Dirty Little Pleasure. I like rom-coms. I do.
Okay.
And I like Adam Sandler rom-coms.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons why, Just Go With It was my honorable mention. But another one would have been Blended with Drew Barrymore or 50 or, I'm not a big Wedding Singer fan. I got burnt out on that. But like Blended, I really enjoyed that because for one, I'm living it. I have a blended family.
Yeah. But there's a lot of great lines from Wedding Singer, though. I mean, Steve Buscemi as doing the best man speech, and there's still one of my favorite speeches given in a movie of all time. To the best man, to the better man.
Right, and but my favorite Steve Buscemi character in Adam Sandler movies is Crazy Eyes for Mr. Deeds.
Oh yeah, I love it when he gets the Corvette at the end. No spoiler. it's been out long enough. You should have been able to see it. There's no spoiler.
Right. And I love the fact, and say what you will about Adam Sandler, say he sold out, he did whatever, but you know what? He has been loyal to the people that started with him.
Oh, definitely.
And I want you to go out and YouTube something. I shared this post. He came out with the Netflix series stand-up thing not too long ago, and in it he does a song which is a tribute to Chris Farley. I want you guys to go out and YouTube that and listen to it. It's not so much as it's a funny song, but it is a touching tribute to a good friend that he had. And I recommend go check it out because it's good. With everything else, he evolved from the trash humor guy he was to a more mature humor.
It's hard to believe that that's the guy that used to come out and played a cousin character to Colin Quinn on a show on MTV. It was a game show called Remote Control.
Yes.
He came out and played basically Billy Madison.
Right.
As a character on that show, would come out and ask questions, and then he would go away. And he was, Colin Quinn was huge at that time on MTV with Ken Sobel?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Ken Ober? No, that's Keith Oberman. I'm thinking of. Anyway, he was just a side character on there. And then like a couple of years later, we're like, hey, that's that dude from Remote Control. He's on Saturday Night Live now. That's weird.
Right. And then he went out his first movie was like something with like a boat, and don't watch it. It was Overboard or something like that. It's horrible. And also, don't ever watch Punch Drunk Love.
Okay. I've never seen it.
That's like 2 hours I can never get back. It was his version of 1 Hour Photo.
Okay.
Where he plays like a psychopath type person in it. It's horrible. I didn't hear it.
Another underrated comedy that I thought of while we were doing this is a little Irish film called Waking Ned Devine.
I've never seen it.
So what this is, it's a community in Ireland that's just got a whole bunch of older people in it, and they all go to the pub and all this. Well, their friend Ned Devine wins the lottery, but dies from the excitement of winning the lottery.
Oh, Jesus.
So his two best friends concoct this thing to fool the lottery board into making them believe Ned is still alive. It's not a Weekend at Bernie's thing where one of them pretends to be Ned Devine, and it goes from being like they're trying to fool them to the whole community, actually celebrating this man's life.
Right.
It's funny and it's uplifting. It's a really good movie.
Well, that's good. I'll check it out. All right. Well, that's all I've got.
Okay. One thing I wanted to throw was when I was doing this research, we were talking about. So we've talked about our favorite ones, or the list that we came up with. We talked about the obvious choices, a couple of ones that we didn't put in there. Our favorite genres of comedies, but I found this thing and it's a very reputable website. It's Rotten Tomatoes, and they put out the top 10 comedy movies. Now, I'm just going to read the top 10, and then you're just going to go, and you're going to go, huh? Because I'm just going to go right down real quick.
Okay.
Lady Bird, Black Klansman, It Happened One Night, Coco, Paddington 2, Modern Times, 8th Grade, The Big Sick, Singing in the Rain, and A Hard Day's Night.
What the fuck? Are they on drugs? I want them to share their drugs.
Right. Paddington 2. What the fuck? Lady Bird. That's remember the little girl from the movie Hannah?
No.
Ronan, something like that. She just won an Oscar not too long ago, but she plays like this Victorian era thing, and that's funny, I guess.
Okay.
I heard Black Klansman was funny, but number 2 on this list,
right?
The Big Sick. So a dude pretends to be sick.
I mean, I could see if they had like Stripes, Caddyshack, 1941, any
Yeah.
of those.
Yeah. But so the next 10 were La La Land, Philadelphia Story, Zootopia, Toy Story 2, Up, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which I didn't know was a fucking comedy, Toy Story 3, Doctor Strangelove, Finding Nemo, and The Death of Stalin.
How are these fucking Philadelphia Story? Wasn't that a drama?
Yeah.
How is that funny? Isn't it about somebody with AIDS or something like that?
No, that's just Philadelphia.
That's Philadelphia. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just like, they're fucking whacked out, dude.
So I'm just going to go down here. I'm going to go to another 10. So we have Roman Holiday, Toy Story, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Sorry to Bother You, Patterson, Crazy Rich Asians, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, The Gold Rush, La Dolce Vita, and Shaun the Sheep movie.
Okay, I don't know who's writing this list, but why are you fucking paying them?
I don't know. I seriously don't know.
Everybody's like, well, Rotten Tomatoes gave this movie such and such. I'm like, I've never given two shits about Rotten Tomatoes. Now I give two shits less.
Right? So you finally get to number 29 before you finally get one of the all times. I mean, you could throw Doctor Strangelove up there. Toy Stories, it's got all three of those in their top 30. But when you have things like The Big Sick and Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah. If I'm gonna throw in Toy Story had funny moments, but if I'm gonna throw in like one of those animated ones, I would have put Emperor's New Groove above that. David Spade was phenomenal in that.
Way, way above all of those.
Yeah. Like, no touchy, bad llama.
Right? And I think it had Up on there, and there was a great quote that I said, or I didn't say it, that I repeat a lot though, was the first 5 minutes of Up is a better love story than the Twilight movies could create in 4 movies.
Oh yeah, definitely, without a doubt.
All right. It didn't get to number 34 before it got one that I didn't think that I should have put on my list, but I didn't. It's a movie called The Nice Guys. And it has Russell Crowe and oh shit, what's his name? Drive, dude.
Not Statham, is it?
Ryan Gosling.
Okay.
And it was written and directed by Shane Black, who did the third.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It took me a while. If you haven't seen it, the one's a private eye, the other's a hitman, and it's just funny. Oh, and then another one along those lines was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I forgot about that movie too.
Oh yeah. Or The Hitman's Bodyguard.
Yeah, another great one. So
yep.
We could go on for another 3-4 hours on comedies and movies.
Right. But we won't.
But we have to take a break from doing the cryptids and the aliens and the conspiracies and the politics and.
Yeah, and we want to be able to just pretty much touch on any subject. So if there's something you want to hear us talk about, leave us a comment. If it's something that we find interesting, we'll do it.
There you go.
So we basically, to sum up, we talked about our favorite top 10 movies, some honorable mentions, and we spun off a couple different rabbit holes with other movies and stuff like that. But that pretty much sums up today's episode.
Yeah. So drop us a line, drop us a like, drop us a follow, hit us up on social media and wherever you find us, and let us know where you're finding us and all that stuff. And
give us a subscribe.
Yes. So, hey, insert tagline here.
Yep. Love you guys. Peace out.